What's up guys, Flux here, hope you're all doing well. Before we start, I just want to say thank you for all the support this channel's been getting. Over 6,000 subscribers and 700,000 total views, like y'all are the best. I'm glad you guys like the content. I'm working on new scripts every day so I can get more videos out for y'all. Secondly, I see all your comments asking me to review the new Total Drama, and I hear you. I'm just waiting for it to come out officially before I make a long-form video about it. Trust me, after dedicating hours researching for the other seasons, I'm going to talk about this one too. But that brings us to the topic of today's video. In the wake of what feels like a surge of old shows being rebooted, I wanted to discuss, well, what constitutes if a show gets rebooted or not. Generally, we as consumers don't like being handed the same concepts and ideas repeatedly, but depending on what new changes and inclusions are made within a reboot, the end product could be just as good, if not better, than the original series. More often than not, that's not really the case, but it's still something you want to keep in mind. But it raises the important question: what should we consider when rebooting a show? So I've compiled a 5-point list with a couple of show examples for each of the most essential things a reboot should follow. Now, not every good reboot follows these conditions. In fact, the bad examples, as you'll see later on, usually fail in every aspect I'll list. And obviously, there's many more steps in creating a successful reboot of a show. Still, I think just as a starting point, this list is something to call back on during the writing process. Also, disclaimer, I'm saying reboot in this video, but these tips also apply to remakes and revivals since all of these terms are very close. They've all been jumbled together with how much media comes out every day, so to make this video as simple as possible, I'm defining a reboot as the continuation of a previously existing property, usually years after that property stopped production. With all that being cleared up, let's get started. Point 1. Does the show have more concepts or ideas to be explored? It seems like an obvious question to ask. You would only bring back a property that has something new to bring to its core audience. But hey, shows like Scooby-Doo and SpongeBob prove that you can run a series into the ground for profit. Starting with Total Drama, a show that many of you are familiar with, I'm sure. It sounds like a show with infinite room for possibilities. Throw some teens in an enclosed location, whether that be an island, a film lot, around the world, or otherwise. Add some drama and creative challenges, and boom, you've got a season of Total Drama. Heck, the show that is parodying Survivor has 44 seasons. So what's stopping Total Drama from being a show with a long-running production? While Total Drama may seem like a never-ending book, as we saw with later seasons, it's natural for writers to get burned out or cornered into producing mediocre and even terrible episodes. I spoke at length about this in my All-Stars and Pocketeer reviews, but Total Drama was losing pieces of its original charm with each new iteration. Sure, Redunculous Race was a breath of fresh air that revitalized the series, but they're rebooting Total Drama Island. They're using the same island gimmick that they've used not once, not twice, not 3, but 4 times already. And if they've already dried up the well of ideas in the last 2 seasons, it doesn't bode well for trying to reboot it. Conversely, there's also the Clone High revival coming out soon. Remember, I'm only commenting on point 1 when I say that making a Clone High reboot is a good idea. Since, without spoiling it, the ending of the first and only season of the show was so open-ended, it leaves a lot of room for writers to come back with new ideas and brainstorm ways to continue the show, especially when compared to shows like Total Drama, which has seasons upon seasons to get a general feel for it compared to Clone High's singular season. Point 2. Can the show's concept be brought back in the present day, without making it terribly dated? Our culture is ever changing with the times, so the things that we might have loved before might not be in favor anymore. That being said, there's a reason why you don't see many shows from generations ago getting rebooted. Some shows just wouldn't survive if they were given a futuristic coat of paint. For example, despite the Boondocks being cancelled for reportedly taking too long to produce, I think John Witherspoon's unfortunate passing might have also played a part as well, may he rest in peace. I don't think the cartoon would have survived in the modern era. It was a witty, brilliantly animated, and timeless show for sure, but above all, it was polarizing for its commentary on political, social, and economic issues that were prevalent at the time. There's still plenty of targets for the Boondocks crew to pick on, so to speak, but I don't think the blunt and controversial writing style the show has would be welcome in the current soft-spoken and tender society. A lot of people still find Uncle Ruckus's character from the show problematic because of his racism, which is literally part of the commentary the show makes on certain black people trying to denounce their own race in order to seem less dangerous to This isn't the video for that type of debate. If you want more info about the Boondocks, there's tons of coverage on YouTube. Heck, I'll make a video on it if you guys want, but right now we're only dishing on reboots. Getting back on topic, Clone High is another show that I don't think would fare well in today's environment, given that it came out in 2002. A lot of the humor and references in that show are peak 2000s, like imagine having Marilyn Manson, Tom Green, or John Stamos make a cameo in the show in 2023. It'll feel even more out of place than it did 20 years ago. They're also trying to modernize the characters with god-awful bright color palettes. It's hella noticeable too, since the original show's color style was really muted, so having the characters drenched in saturated colors just feels loud. I can't describe it a better way than that. Similarly, I think the Good Burger 2 movie is going to be pretty bad too. Everything in that movie screams the campy 90s, so bringing it back 25 years later just feels like there's going to be a bunch of zany references and blasts from the past that'll make the sequel feel even more dated than the original. Also extending that message to the 2016 Powerpuff Girls reboot, a show that I can only remember for the cringy meme inclusions and twerking. What a legacy to leave behind. Point 3. How much can you change the original show in the reboot to make it a fresh idea? There's no reason to reboot a show just to do the same thing as the original. So if you want to draw on your audience, you gotta switch up things to keep it interesting. But usually not something that was the show's highlight, most notably things like voice actors or animation. For example, Chris and Chef's voices for Total Drama. This one's especially weird because the voice actor they chose for Chris was already designated to a character in universe previously, and that character was also a host. So why didn't they just use that character to host? Or at the very least have the new VA try to do a different voice for Chris, but no, it just feels like they got lazy and didn't want to use the actual voice actor for whatever reason and just got lazy with it. The reboot could also be missing main characters, a la iCarly's reboot missing Salmon, Clone High's missing Gandhi, or Velma's missing Scooby-Doo. Of course, all of these shows still have multiple main characters. Still, these missing pieces aren't going to go unnoticed without some sort of plausible explanation as to why they're gone, as well as fine-tuned writing that proves that the show can go on without these assets. Animation and design are essential too. It's customary for animated reboots to automatically up the budget or drastically change the style of the show to update it for modern times, but in some cases it just comes off as jarring. Total Drama 2023 and Clone High styles remain relatively unchanged for the most part, even though the smoother kind of animation works to both shows' detriment. Both of their animation styles have such simple, jagged designs. Funnily enough, the character designer for Total Drama admitted to basing the designs off of Clone High's characters, that having them bounce across the screen so cleanly takes a bit of the charm away from the originals. But overall, I do like the animation in both of the reboots. That's more than I can say for shows like Ben 10 or Teen Titans Go, both shows seemingly dumbing down the animation style a lot compared to their former versions. Especially Ben 10, bro went from being a man on a mission to looking like he could be from any cartoon. You don't have to trade uniqueness for simplicity for your character design to work, guys. And even though they're not worth mentioning, most live-action remakes tend to suck too. Not for lack of trying, they pull out all the stops to draw in attention. Quadruple the original's budget, an influx of celebrity actors, you name it. But most of the time, all the live-action remakes tend to do is take away from animation's magic over live action. There's so much more creative potential comparatively, hence why the originals were animated instead of shot live. Examples include the 2019 Lion King, with characters that didn't seem expressive as before, for obvious reasons, the Moana remake that's coming out not even a decade after the original, the Lilo and Stitch remake that's already being panned for fear of being colorist, or the Aladdin remake with the Slapmaster himself. Point 4. Does the new show respect the values of the original? Another seemingly obvious question, right? You wouldn't want to build on top of a previously existing property just to defile it. But again, there's plenty of shows that do that very thing. Hello, Teen Titans Go. Its slightly less relevant cousin, the 2016 Powerpuff Girls reboot, is guilty of this too, with its heavily dated pop culture references and out-of-character characters that contradict the 98 classic. Oh, and the twerking. Also the twerking. But it's nowhere near as bad as Teen Titans Go, which has more twerking than Powerpuff Girls could ever hope for. It also bounces back to point 3 because the show bears little to no resemblance to its predecessor without the Teen Titans Go logo slapped on it. The characters are wacky and zany shadows of their former selves. The tone has gone from dark and occasionally comedic to pure unadulterated nonsense. One of the showrunners literally admitted to not even watching the original show. Yet they decided to go with this series instead of, oh, I don't know, just writing your own characters. The series has plenty of episodes addressing the show's criticism, but they fail to understand the main point of you didn't need to use the Teen Titans namesake to make a show that is literally the opposite of everything the Teen Titans has to offer. And yet the show constantly takes jabs at the original, even going as far to take scenes and stories from the original.
Everyone hates this show right now because they think it's this like kiddie show, and it's not that. It's definitely
no. It's got a very bright and cheerful style, but like its tone of the humor is kind of messed up.
Yeah, and it's weird.
Which to me makes it funny. It's kind of like South Park, you know, like it's crude and adorable, but awful.
I too wish to participate in the dance of the pee-pee!
They owe all their success to the first Teen Titans and have nothing to show for it. There's no shortage of shows that age the characters down for a younger audience, but Teen Titans Go just feels like a slap in the face to the somewhat mature reputation the original had. Conversely, a show like iCarly being rebooted for adults makes sense because all the old iCarly fans have grown up at this point in time. The show's been off the air for over a decade. It wouldn't make sense to make a kids version of iCarly since the new generation of kids probably has no idea what iCarly even is. Same reason why most of Total Drama's core fan base didn't care for Total Drama Rama. You have to be able to understand your audience if you're going to be rebooting a show. You shouldn't be taking a teen-rated show and aging it down for children, then getting confused when fans of that show want nothing to do with it. And point 5. Does the reboot have an identity? Or in harsher terms, does the show have a reason to exist past milking old nostalgia for money? The worst thing a reboot can be is non-essential. A network spending thousands to millions of dollars just to make a rendition of a show that's just there. It doesn't make it any easier when most of the time, the only thing that separates the reboots from the originals are year numbers. iCarly 2021, Total Drama Island 2023, The Powerpuff Girls 2016, Ben 10 2016. If you're going to be taking the show's namesake, you better be doing everything you can to make a case as to why your version is different. I hope the new Total Drama will be able to mold its own identity, considering it's taking the same name as a property that originated a decade and a half prior. Getting back to Teen Titans Go, while it's a garbage off-the-wall show that blatantly disrespects the show that it's viciously biting from, it has its own identity and can't be mistaken for the original Teen Titans. I can't say whether that's a good or bad thing, but at the very least the show is unique in that regard. Powerpuff Girls 2016 is the standard for most reboots regarding Point 5, just a shallow return to format with little to no exciting changes. It's the Powerpuff Girls, but without the original voice actors, which still baffles me to this day. More flanderized versions of the main characters and less action. Point 5 is a culmination of all the previous points, almost like a litmus test. There has to be a balance of old and new in a reboot, otherwise you risk going too far in one direction and creating something terrible, or worse, forgettable. You want to keep the best parts of the original while still spicing it up enough to warrant the need for a continuation of the series in the first place. It doesn't mean load your show with a bunch of old references either. If the only thing I'm watching your new show for is a reminder of the other show, I'm just gonna watch the other show. That's just common sense. And yeah, those are my thoughts on reboots. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all that. Trying something out new, kind of a more serious topic-driven video. Worked out pretty nice. I wrote this as sort of a prelude to the reboots I'm going to be talking about later this year, which are obviously the Total Drama one and probably the Clone High one too. Whenever it comes out, I'm not sure about that one, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. If you guys want to see me write more video essay style videos, and let me know. Whatever you guys want to see me do, let me know. And yeah, that's all I really got. I never really know what to say at the end of these because there's no script. I'm just kind of talking fill up time, but whatever. Thank you guys for watching again, and thank you for the support again. And that's all I got. Enjoy the rest of your day.